Hello guys, welcome to Slick Report. Please subscribe for more videos.
AITA for telling my daughter I don't like how she treats my husband. I am a mom of 3. My oldest daughter Gracie is from my first marriage. She's just turned 17. I have Milo 10 and Lyric 7 with my current husband. My ex-husband and I separated days after Gracie's first birthday because he told me he wanted to see other women and wanted me to wait for him. I did not and I filed for divorce. He always remained part of Gracie's life, but he made it clear he only wanted me when it suited him. After the divorce I met my current husband. Gracie was 4 before she was introduced to him. Her dad was angry when I found someone else. He hated my husband and Gracie always knew it. I went through the courts when my ex would not stop bad-mouthing my husband to Gracie and did not leave her out of the adult issues we were having. The courts were not helpful at all and sent us to co-parenting classes. Gracie was hesitant with my husband. She adored her dad and didn't want him to feel hurt. This is something she told a therapist when she was young. Then when she was 8, her dad died, and it feels like ever since then there was no way my husband could be anything to her. We never expected him to be her dad, but to be someone she trusts and cares about. Gracie holds him at arm's length and doesn't treat him like a member of her family. She doesn't include him like she does extended family. An example was last March. She was spotlighted in her art club. She sent a group chat message to me, both sets of grandparents and her uncles and aunts, but did not include my husband. I mentioned it to my husband when I got home, and she'd made it home before me and still hadn't told him. I brought it up to her, and she said he wasn't on the need-to-know list for her. It hurts my husband, and I have tried to facilitate their relationship to be more, but I don't think it was enough. A couple of days ago Gracie was saying she needed help with some engineering questions, and she wanted to go over to my Bill's sister's husband, brother's house to ask him some questions. I asked her why she had to go to all that trouble when my husband could have answered the questions for her. She said it made more sense to her to ask her uncle's brother. This is when I told her I don't like how she does that, how she treats my husband like he's not there, like he's not part of the family. I told her we never ever asked her to replace her dad, or to consider them the same, but she excludes him and keeps him out, and he has only ever been kind to her. I told her it's something I would like her to work on. She got mad and told me I chose to marry him. She didn't choose to have him in her life. She also said it wasn't my business what their relationship is like. I told her I'm her mom and I love her, and I'm his wife and I love him and I just want them to get along. She's still angry at me, and I'm trying to figure out if I did the wrong thing here. AITA for moving my daughter out of her room and onto the loft area to make room for my sister. I, 34F, have 3 kids, 6 minutes, 4M, 2F. We live in a 3-bed 2.5-bath condo, and we have my sons in one room and my daughter in another. We also have a loft area with 2.5 walls. One side has a wall maybe 3.5 or 4 feet tall, and another side is open. I have a half-sister, 12, that needed a place to stay. She was in an emergency foster home, and either my husband and I had to take her in or she had to go to a foster home. We've never met her. I didn't even know she existed, but I didn't want her to end up in foster care, so we took her in. My husband wanted her to share a room with our daughter, but I thought living with strangers is hard enough for her, and she'll need her own space. We ended up moving our daughter into our son's room, but that didn't work out well. Our daughter can't sleep without a sound machine and nightlight, and the boys can't sleep with them. They also have different bedtimes, and putting the boys to bed always woke her up. My husband wanted to put her back in her old room, but I didn't think that would be a good situation for either of the girls. I ended up moving her bed into the loft, and her clothes/changing table are in my room. The half wall is too high for her to climb, her toys were already there, and we can put a divider or curtain there if this becomes a long-term thing. My husband came home and saw this and was furious that I moved our daughter into the loft, instead of letting her share a room with my half-sister. That was around 3 weeks ago. My daughter is fine in the loft. I painted it for her, got some princess wall decals, and organized the toys to leave more room for her bed and everything else I brought from her room. To say my sister isn't adjusting well is an understatement. She's tried to run away twice, and she had a breakdown and destroyed everything in her room last week. My husband has mentioned calling the social worker and sending her to a foster home since she got here. The past few days have been better. I haven't had to pick her up early from school at all this week. She's leaving her room for meals, and she's starting to talk to me. My husband still thinks this isn't working out. He's refusing to let our daughter stay in the loft and says that my sister shouldn't be around the kids. I told him if he sends her to a foster home, after she's just starting to feel comfortable here, the kids and I are leaving. We've been arguing again because he wants to send her to a home, and he actually said part of the reason is because he wants to get our daughter back into her room. He got his family calling me a bad mom for prioritizing some random girl over my kids. AITA for putting my daughter in the loft to make room for my sister and not sending her to a foster home. AITA for telling my sister when she was sent away it was the best day. So I, 19F, have a sister 3 years older than me. When we were younger our dad passed away and our life got uprooted. We went from middle class to poor overnight. My mom did her best in those years. My older sister turned into a terror after he passed from 16 years old. She was awful. My mom took on more hours in debt to try to help her, but it all failed in the end. When she turned 16, my mom had enough and sent her away to one of those reform schools. There was finally peace in the house. It was great. When she came back she was a different person. Anyways, today her and my mom got into an argument about how she was a crap mom for sending her away. She claimed she was fine, and that's when I told her the day she was sent away was the best day of my life, and she really sucked back then. She was shocked and called me an ass. My mom just gave me a look and said I probably shouldn't have said that. AITA if I don't wear a hijab to my friend's dad's funeral? My birth parents were from Iran and my birth mother wore hijab until her death. I was adopted when I was an infant by their best friends, my very loving parents. Both my parents are Indian, so even though my race is Iranian, I feel more Indian by culture and tradition, and identify my ethnicity as Indian. There are very little POCs in my school, maybe 20 out of 400 students, so me and one other girl, let's call her A, are the only Iranis in our school. We met when A moved across the street from me when we were 6, and now we're both in high school. We instantly became best friends. She has always respected my decision to identify as Indian, and we teach each other bits of Hindi and Farsi, Irani language, over the years. A's mom is very traditional, to the point where she's against burning hijabs in the recent protests. She sees me as family now, so she even goes as far to not bother putting her hijab back on when I'm around. Women who wear the hijab religiously are supposed to wear the hijab in the presence of anyone who isn't close family. She has gently shown me many parts of Iran's culture as I've grown up, and never tries to negate me calling myself Indian. When I turned 13, though, she gave me a hijab. As I started to explain that I didn't want to wear a hijab, she apologized, but told me to keep it just in case. A's dead almost 2 weeks ago. The funeral is in 1 week. I've done my best to help A in any way I can, but it's affected her so much. She was energetic and full of life, and always trying to find the positive, but now she's just empty. She mainly watches TV for most of the day, only she doesn't react to jokes or sad parts like she used to. She doesn't eat more than a couple bites, and I have to coax her to speak more than 2-word replies. Some of the tears I've cried are not just for A's dad, but for A. I know time will help, but it just seems hopeless right now. 2 days ago A's mom gave me a box with a dress and a hijab to wear for the funeral. I thanked her but started to give the hijab back when she told me that I will have to wear the hijab during the funeral. I asked her why, and she said, "I tolerate that you think you're not from Iran. I allow it in my home, but you are, and I will not allow disrespect during my husband's funeral." She's never said anything like that before, and I was so taken aback that I apologized and took the hijab and left. But I do not feel Muslim and have not for any part of my life, and because of this I'm thinking of not wearing it. It just doesn't feel right to wear a hijab when it's not a part of my religion. I don't want to get caught in the middle of a fight interstate, though, so I don't know what to do. AITA if I don't wear it next week. Edit, I feel obligated to mention that others who are not Muslim are not expected to wear one. including my parents, even though the funeral is in a mosque. As most of the comments are saying to either go to the funeral and wear the hijab or don't go to the funeral at all, I'm deciding to go to the funeral with the hijab, but to not ever wear one again. Thank you for all the comments. Edit 2. Wow guys, this blew up. Thank you for all the comments and upvotes. As I stated before, I've decided to just wear the hijab as I want to be there for my friends, but in the future I'm going to be very careful around A's mom. Thank you again. AITA for telling my dad I'm not a replacement daughter. I, 15F, was adopted 4 years ago by my dad, 55M. I bounced around in foster care my entire life, but he never technically fostered me. It's a long story I won't get into here. The point is, he adopted me and he was the first person I ever felt comfortable with. He's done a good job as a single dad, and we fight, but I love him very much. He had a daughter before me, one who died when she was 9. She died almost a decade before I was adopted. I know my dad loved her a lot, but he always says he loves me just as much. We got into a fight the other day, which isn't super unusual. We were arguing about something beyond stupid, just my messy room. But then when I was walking away to go clean it, I heard him mumble, "Dead daughter, was never like this." I kinda lost my shit. I screamed at him, yelling that I was never a replacement for her and never would be. He told me I was being ungrateful and he saved my life. I told him he was selfish and putting his dead kid on a pedestal, and maybe she wasn't actually all that great. It's been 2 days. We haven't said a word to each other. I've heard him crying though. I feel bad, but I also hate being a replacement for his daughter. It feels like I'll never be enough for him because I'm not her. But he's my dad and my favorite person in the world. AITA. AITA for telling my parents that I know they would choose each other over me. My 18F parents, 44F and 47 meters, have been together since they were 18 and 21. When my mom was 15, she had this huge crush on my father. She said he was the most handsome guy she had ever seen. He had no idea who she was though. 3 years later they randomly met at an event. My dad asked her out that night and they have been inseparable ever since. They were the best parents growing up and still are. I don't have a single memory of them fighting or yelling at each other, and if they did, I never heard them. My dad still gets my mom flowers every week, moved across the country cause she got a big job opportunity. He loved his hometown. And for about 1-2 years my mom was the earner of the family, supporting my dad who left a job he hated and helping him start his own business. I do believe that they are the definition of soulmates. Now to the problem. A few days ago, my parents were talking about a close family friend who had an emergency C-section and how the father had to pick the one who gets saved. Both the mother and the baby are fine, by the way. My dad was saying how lucky they were that my mom's pregnancy and labor went smoothly, and that he could never choose between me and my mother. My mom agreed, saying that she wouldn't be able to pick either. Well, I intervened and said that it's fine to admit that they would choose each other instead of me, if it came down to it. My parents completely froze. They started asking if they did anything wrong, if I didn't feel loved anymore, and how I could think about something like that. I apologized, told them I didn't mean it that way. But now things are still tense between us, and I'm afraid that they might feel as if they are bad parents. But I only said it because I know how much they love each other, and that one couldn't live if something happened to the other. So AITA, and what can I do to make things better? AITA for not going to my bio sibling's wedding. My parents had a child, Ashley, when they were in high school. They decided to give her up because they weren't ready to raise a kid. Fast forward 27 years 1 year ago, and she tracked them/my family down wanting to connect. It's a little weird for me. Even though I know we're biologically related, she doesn't feel the same as my 2 younger siblings. My parents have found joy in the reconnection and I'm happy for them. Ashley is getting married in a few months and invited my whole family. I feel weird about the whole thing. I also have a bachelorette party for a friend of mine scheduled the same weekend, not remotely close. I RSVP'd no. My parents are supportive in the decision because they realize how weird it must be. My younger siblings haven't decided if they'll go, but also feel a little weird about it. One said he's leaning against it, knowing I won't go either. The other is totally undecided. After RSVPing no, she called me and asked why I RSVP'd no, and I told her I hope it's her dream wedding, but I have other plans. When asked what those plans are, I told her, and she broke down saying she can't believe a party weekend is more important to me. I responded by saying sorry, but I don't really know her, and even if we're biologically sisters, she doesn't feel like one. I have a lot going on in my life, and already have a family I love and don't really need new siblings. Her fiancé then reached out, supposedly without her knowledge, asking if I'd reconsider. I told him it's just too much and would be blocking his number indefinitely, unless I change my mind, but not to expect it. I feel bad for her, but the whole thing is just so weird, and I really didn't feel anything towards her when we met. AITA for that. AITA for telling my stepdaughter I'd never be a stay-at-home mom, using a throwaway. I met my now husband 7 years ago, when he'd been divorced 5 years and had 3 kids, the youngest being a 10F. We dated for about a year, engaged for a year, and have been married for 5 years. The kids are awesome. Their mom and I have a pretty good relationship. Since I met him several years after the divorce, I only know what I was told and my understanding of my husband and his ex-wife's relationship and divorce. But from what I know, they were high school sweethearts who got married shortly after high school. At that time, they had similar values and wanted similar things out of life, including a more traditional family structure, where the husband works and the mom is a stay-at-home mom. At some point, they fell out of love and got divorced, and my understanding is that it was not contentious. At the time of the divorce, their youngest was 5, and she wanted to continue to be a som, and my husband agreed that was the best decision. So he agreed to continue paying his ex-wife a certain amount of money that would allow her to stay home as long as the kids were under 18. The youngest is now 17, and she's been applying for colleges and thinking about her future. I was around for the oldest 2 going through this, but at the times they were each seniors in high school. I simply hadn't been in their lives as long as I've been in the youngest's life. I've been with her since she was 10. I love her, and am so excited to be helping her with this. Here's where I might be the asshole. She asked me if I'd ever thought about being a stay-at-home mom, and I answered honestly, no, I've never thought about it. I never wanted that, and I wouldn't enjoy it. A couple days later, her mom called me up crying. Honestly, if she's been angry and yelling at me, I would have been able to disregard it as her being unreasonable, but she wasn't angry. She's always been really kind and gracious to me, and she even was in this conversation. She was just sad. I guess her daughter told her she'd never want to be a stay-at-home mom, and the mom took it as her daughter doesn't respect her or appreciate everything she's done for her kids. She also felt like I didn't respect her, and that her ex doesn't appreciate all she's done for their kids, though I tried my hardest to convince her otherwise. Because I do respect her. Her kids are awesome, and that's in large part thanks to her and how she raised them. And my husband does appreciate all she's done. I don't know, she wasn't blaming me outright or anything, but she was clearly so sad about this, and nothing I said made it better. I left the conversation feeling awful. I asked friends about it and they were very divided. Some said I did nothing wrong. Some said her mom is a stay-at-home mom, and that's clearly who the daughter would have been thinking about when asking me that in. I should have been more respectful. So Reddit, am I the asshole? AITA for worrying about how my boyfriend uses his sick/personal days. My boyfriend, 28, has worked at his job for a year now. He tends to call off for arbitrary reasons, at times has taken multiple days, or even a full week off for no good reason other than not wanting to work. I, 25, come from a background of great work ethic, to the point where I put myself in situations where I probably would have been better calling off than going in. I've politely expressed to him before that I don't get why he'd rather get a point at work that lasts a whole year than just go to work. He told me I shouldn't worry about his stuff, as it doesn't affect me. I believe he missed out on a promotion/pay raise in 2022 because of his attendance. For context, he also has a child that he has on weekends/has to pay child support, and lives paycheck to paycheck. We are a full 5 working days into the new year, and he is already taking a second payday off. This time because football playoffs are on. I feel like he should be using his days more strategically. He's claimed I come off as selfish because I'm worried about his work life. I said it affects my future. To me, it comes off as immature and unstable. At the end of the day, I don't want to be working more than my boyfriend. I work 40 hours a week. It's unattractive when he can't. I'd also like to plan stuff with our vacation days together. AITA for refusing to clean my BF's lunch containers. My BF, M27, and I, F27, have been living together for a little over a year now. We are generally great at sharing household chores, cooking, cleaning, errands, etc. I contribute more $sign to our living expenses because I earn more and have been working for a while, and he is recently out of school and still paying off student debt. Last night, I was washing up after dinner and finished the dishes that we used. He was just standing there and pointed to his lunch containers and said, "Could you clean those up?" To which I said, "Wait, your lunch containers?" He responded with a bite in his tone, "Yes, I cooked and cleaned tonight, and do way more than you're around the house, so yeah, you can clean those up." I was really upset about his tone and the request. We can help each other out with housework, but shouldn't someone be responsible for their own lunch containers they bring to work? He maintains that because I was washing up, I could have washed and put the containers away. He maintains that the tone was rude but the request is fair. Curious to hear if you think IDA here. AITA for upgrading her flights to business class as a surprise. I feel so stupid for even making this post, but I am genuinely so upset I just need some outside perspective. Me, 29F, and my partner, 31F, are planning a trip from where we live in Scandinavia to Costa Rica. It is a very long flight with a layover. The return tickets in total came to approx $3,100. We spoke briefly of trying to upgrade it to business class using my miles or asking at the desk at check-in to see if we could get a cheeky good deal, but made no commitments. She doesn't really care about these things, but I do, and think it would be nice to experience it with her. Some info on us. We make very decent money. I make slightly more than her. I'm a software engineer and have decent savings and have excellent job security. I'm not bad with money. I like nice things, but I don't spend my money stupidly and save approximately 20 to 25% of my salary each month, in addition to a 15% contribution to my pension. She owns her apartment and has good savings, and we are indeed saving for a bigger place to start a family soon. She comes from a more humble background, where I come from a more upper middle class background. I called the airline and asked how much it would cost to upgrade to business class. It was $900 per person, $1,800 total, for the departing portion of the flight. So I bought it. It was a treat on me. Was meant to be a surprise, but I blurted it out excitedly. I was met with yelling and she was on the verge of tears. She berated me a little and said it was so stupid to spend money on this, and that she doesn't care about this. It makes her anxious and she thinks I should not have done it without her permission. She made me ask my friends what they think and said if they would be happy she'd apologize. They said they would love a surprise upgrade, and it didn't make the situation better with her at all. There seems to be a lot of financial anxiety, but it is my money. I did not lecture her when she invested a huge chunk of her savings into stocks, which are currently doing horribly. I know she doesn't care about these sort of luxuries too much, but I genuinely did not realize it was going to make her so upset. It's something I wanted, so I paid for it. I thought we would have a cute time getting cozy and all relaxed on the flight there to start our trip on a good note. I can always make more money. AITA, I need some perspective here and some advice if you have any. Please and thank you. AITA for buying my husband a new phone? Okay, before I get into this, yes, we are very young to be married. It happened for a lot of reasons, mainly for financial reasons, and because we have a daughter. My husband and I are 19. We have a 4-month-old daughter. It's important to note, he grew up very poor. He's been my boyfriend since we were 14. My parents were pretty middle class, but were still married and still are today, and I lived a great childhood. My husband's mom wasn't in the picture. Dad was really poor. He's picked up a lot of habits from his dad. My husband graduated a year early. He is very good with numbers and my dad knows that. My dad owns a finance company and he wanted my, now, husband to get his degree so he could work at his company. He did. He's been there for 6 months now. This is the first time in his life he has been financially stable. We live in a small but nice house in a great neighborhood. My husband has picked up some bad habits from his dad. He won't eat until me and the baby are fed. Even though, obviously, our daughter does not eat food yet. He knows how breastfeeding can really mess with your appetite. As some other moms know, you may feel full but after you nurse you'll feel hungry again. He says I'm actually not hungry yet even though he's admitted he just doesn't like to eat until he knows everyone else is full. Well, a few times he's told me that we hit our savings goal for the month, and he's told me to go treat myself. So far I've always refused and suggested we put that extra money into our savings. My husband's phone doesn't really work. He's had the same phone since middle school, and he says a new phone is a waste and he'd rather me treat myself. Today he again told me to treat myself. This time I said okay, I will, and he was really happy. I went to the Apple store and bought him a new iPhone. Not a super expensive one, in fact, damn near the cheapest one there. When he got home he was really excited and asked what I bought myself. I said I bought him a new phone and gave it to him. He asked if I was high. I've never drank alcohol, let alone drugs, so it was obviously a sarcastic remark. I said no. He was mad. He said that he told me to buy something for me, not him, and that he's upset I didn't buy something for myself and got him something instead. He's now really disappointed and hasn't even opened his new phone. He doesn't understand he is not poor anymore. He doesn't have to worry about everything. We saved a good amount, and he told me to go treat myself, and buying him a gift is what I chose to treat myself with, the gift of giving.